Yeah, hi Manas.
Yeah, so I hope you're fine now.
Yes. Should not be. Yes, no problem at all. So tell me, I'm sorry about this. I think it's a bit of technology and just kind of got delayed a little bit.
No, it's perfectly fine. So I'll be moderating it from here. So
Uh-huh.
you just need to start from your end, and we'll go on. And a short question and
Okay,
answer type of thing in the end.
sure. Okay.
Okay.
And
So yeah. Hmm.
go ahead, Manas.
Yeah, so we already have a few people who have joined us, and for the rest of them, they can view it later on YouTube. And meanwhile, in between, also there will be some people who will be joining in.
Okay,
Okay, so we shall start now.
sure.
Okay.
Okay. I think let me begin with an apology. My sincere apologies on keeping you waiting on this call. But what I'm going to do is take not more than 15 minutes to kind of brief on what to expect on Friday to IIM Bangalore. I'm going to I think in the initial stages when the Enable Makeathon was conceived, I think there were two perspectives that we were looking at. The first was really in terms of the ideas with which you come in and the product that you are intending to develop. And the other one is really what is it that we can provide as some kind of a perspective on looking at how to make this sustainable in whatever form you might choose to start up this enterprise. I mean, whether it's a not-for-profit, it is a startup, whether it is a registered private company, it really should not matter. The first question that we are looking at is how do we remain sustainable? So one significant focus of what we are going to do on Friday is really about thinking sustainably about our ideas and the organizations that we're going to create. Spend a little bit of time on, for those of you who are going to be at IIM Bangalore, I think we have Center for Entrepreneurship, and the faculty who will be leading the seminar on Friday will actually learning. And we have as an institute we do offer even today several courses for family businesses, for startups, and entrepreneurs in the ecosystem. For this particular initiative that we are looking at on Friday, one of my faculty colleagues, Professor Suresh, will lead this session, basically talking about how do you think about markets and sustainability. More importantly, not even markets, but it's really about how do you think sustainability about the organization, and also kind of provoke some ideas and give you some perspectives on looking at developing a plan, an organizational plan. So I think that's going to be the focus. Along with this, one of the things that I have also experienced having on programs, particularly iterative process. Yeah, and I'm sure many of you who worked in different stages of the idea are quite familiar that it's a little bit between the drawing board, talking to others, getting feedback, going back again, and then looking at how does one make this product sustainable. And you'll see that I'm not using the word profitable. Okay, to my mind, what we really need to look at is how do we build sustainable organization for the idea that we are carrying. Now, obviously, there are several stakeholders with whom we need to have a good insight. And I think the session that you had in November got you a good perspective on the landscape of the field of disability. And I think it also provided you a hands-on and a grounded approach to look at what are the challenges that persons with disability face. Apart from that, I think you also had an opportunity to work with, to talk to several of the shapers, mentors, and others who are active in this sector. And I'm sure that once you went back, you would have kind of used that feedback that you got to work further on your idea or your product. What you're going to see on Friday, Saturday, Sunday is really that same iterative process between reflection and thinking, and then mediating with others, taking feedback, and going back and kind of re-examining the idea that we have. Okay? So all in all that I can say is that it's this one we are structuring not a traditional boot camp that we talk about, but much more in terms of how do you do this iterative process on an ongoing basis. I mean, each of our ideas could be at different stages. We could actually grow into organizations as different stages as we go through this process. But I think the idea we want to leave with you is how do you continue to think sustainably? Yeah. So that's broadly the canvas in terms of what to expect on Friday. Manas, is there anything else in specific that you think I should be talking about?
Since we have some of the teams from the global part, so they won't be attending the business boot camp. So something which would be important for them and which could really help them out.
Okay. And hello, this is Andrina speaking as well. Hi, Vasanthi, how are you?
Hi, tell me.
I just wondered, maybe for those people, especially from abroad, that don't know the IIM Bangalore yet, could you just also tell us a bit about the Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore, and also maybe about you personally and where you're coming from?
Sure. That's okay. Okay, I'm going to be a bit modest on this, but the Indian Institute of Management is the number one or the number two, take it whichever way, business school in India, and definitely among the top 15 business schools in Asia. And we will be turned in about 3 years' time. And what we are known for, I mean, we offer a 2-year MBA program. We offer a 1-year MBA program. We offer a 1-year program for mid-career public policy and bureaucrats from the government. We offer a doctoral program, and we are one of the strongest in the country with about 120 doctoral students. And finally, we offer a weekend part-time MBA for managers. So that's the kind of courses that we offer. But we also are known for several of the centers. Two centers that we are particularly very well known for is the Center for Public Policy, which is hosting this Eid, and the Center for the N.S. Raghavan Center for Entrepreneurial Learning. Apart from this, we have centers for corporate governance, we have centers for capital markets, centers for IT and management. So these are centers of excellence. The Center for Public Policy has kind of made a name for itself in terms of just contributing to the public policy and advocacy issues to the government. But apart from that, we are a key resource in terms of commenting on the position papers that the government brings out, and the center also actively encourages, is actively engaged in working with the government in particularly training and development. The N.S. Raghavan Center for Entrepreneurship and Learning is probably, again, one among the top centers for entrepreneurship in the country. Yeah. So, as a business school, we are extremely focused on entrepreneurship, and I would encourage all of you to take a look at the N.S. Raghavan's center and what they do, because they, at any point in time, they incubate about 15 businesses on the campus. And apart from that, there are about 60 to 70 businesses that get mentored at IIM Bangalore, at the center. Okay, so that's broadly what we do. Now, what do I do? And that's interesting because I'm actually a professor of organization behavior and human resources management. My area of work is diversity, and within that, I work on gender, I work on disability, I work on affirmative action, and so given the kind of interest that I have, I also teach on the NS Raghavan Center for Entrepreneurship program that runs for entrepreneurs. And I work with the Center for Public Policy and I train bureaucrats in the government. For me personally, this Enable Makeathon is something that's just a personal commitment and not just an institutional commitment, because my very first meeting with Tarun and your team, I think it was just the right idea, and personally just deeply committed to it. So what do I bring on Friday to the table is really facilitation skills. I mean, how do you harness the power of about 100 people there in the room on Friday to be able to do some kind of peer consulting, feedback for the participants on the Makeathon. So really, it's really about structuring and getting the right people together to make it all happen.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So we have a request just to improve the voice quality and connectivity of this call. Could you try to turn off your video to make sure that we hear you even better, Vasanthi?
Okay. Yes. Is that better?
I think that's better. That's perfect.
Oh, great,
I think that every one of the participants also turned it off, so that's perfect. And I think with that we could go back to Mana's question from before. So you've been talking mostly about the perspective of the on-site participants. Is there a specific message for the online teams that will not be able to come this weekend to Bangalore? What will be your message for them?
Yes, my message is that we are working with the logistic teams, and we are going to be putting up this the session that they take a look at some of the material that will be circulated, and I shall make sure that we make copies of them and put them up for you. My colleagues usually use some tools that help you to think through a little better on your organization. So I would ask them to kind of share that with us, and I think on Friday, later part of the day, depending on which part of the world you are in, you probably would want to accent and kind of look at them as you work on the idea on Saturday and Sunday. And if there is still something that you think that after having seen the video, you find that there are some areas that we could particularly contribute to, my suggestion would be just drop us a mail and drop me a mail, and I will work with my faculty colleagues in making sure that you get the response. With that, I think that should kind of help you from the other countries too.
Great, that's wonderful. And just to add to that, we'll also have a dedicated webinar next Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday morning. You already see them in the events section of our Google Plus page, which is particularly for the for the online teams to kind of catch up after the Business Bootcamp and Maker Day. So again, we will cover some of the questions and content there as well.
Sure,
okay.
Sure. My suggestion would be that I'd request all the teams to just put in your questions and send them. So what it allows me to do is actually to pick 3 or 4 people who can all respond on those questions. So whatever is going on in your mind, just kind of share it on a mail. What's the worst that can happen is that we'll turn around and say that, sorry, not possible, we couldn't get the right person to respond, or maybe we'll get back to you a little while later. We don't have the response maybe at this point in time, but I think it's still worth a try.
Great. So I think with that, maybe we can also take questions right now. So we have the Google chat for that, but we also have every one of you that can also just unmute your mic and yeah, ask a specific question that you would like to have answered today by presenting yourself first. So we already have a first question from the Google chat from Mahmoud. Feel free to unmute your mic as well and just speak up if you have a microphone available. So otherwise I'm reading it out. Considering the type of challenge, what is your suggestion for sustainability and non-profit or for-profit? What are the advantages and disadvantages? That's a question from Mahmoud.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mahmoud. That's a good question. I think I would broadly look at two or three dimensions. The first dimension would actually be what is given the nature of the challenge and the kind of product that you're developing. Is that the kind of product that are going to be used by governments, or are they going to be used on large-scale programs where there are likely to be subsidies or support that are, and is the usage very, very wide and actually touches people who are highly vulnerable? Now, if those are the kind of challenges that you're looking at, then may be worthwhile to look at the not-for-profit model and probably look at grant support and things like that that you would be able to get. Okay. The second one is that if you're looking at sustainability, I think constantly, how are you going to be able to push the cost down? That, I think, is going to be a key decision, because most people say that it's about finding the market. Okay, but at the same time, I think it's also constantly this question of how far and how much can we push the cost down, whether it is in terms of reaching the persons, or whether it is in the manner in which we deliver, whether it is in the manner in which we actually build the product. I think pushing the cost down is another dimension. The third one, Mahmoud, and I don't know much, I mean, I'm not able to comment because I don't have a very deep understanding of your team, but one of the things you also want to ask is there enough breadth and depth within your team, or do you really need some help from outside to be able to actually think about sustainability? Often my experience has been that when we come together particularly on these with a passion and idea, with something that we have seen around us. But if we have to look at sustainability, we are also asking, how can I scale? How can I take it to the next level? So you may also want to know whether within your team you have people who are actually thinking scale. Yeah.
So maybe we can give a bit of background about Mahmoud's team. They're working, the team Soft Bionics, they're working on a prosthetic hand. So starting from the hand, which is known through the Enable community, but building on it much further. So they've added many more functions and are also working on the fingers with a softer material to give it a much more human touch, basically.
Okay. So I think the model, from whatever you're saying, really what we are looking at is a kind of a differentiated pricing model, maybe. So that's probably an idea worth looking at, because if it's something kind of an add-on, but I can kind of take a look at your design more carefully and probably come back to you next Wednesday. Would that be okay?
He's typing that they have to work with governments and NGOs, and he says excellent on your question. So I think maybe that's the question of who's actually your customer. Is it the user or is it someone else?
Yeah.
How would you address this question?
Okay. Is the other one I would come back and ask this question is the product actually add-on? Are there ads, what do you call it, adds on to the product? In which case, it's possible to look at, yes, there will be governments, but there will also be paying customers in the NGO space. Yeah. So from what I understand, and I'll probably be able to comment on it more deeply, Mahmoud, on next week, I will, or maybe even on a chat maybe on Saturday, but on Friday, sorry. But I think there is an opportunity to look at both a client and a customer. That's a paying client and also a not-for-profit or a government as a customer. I think it's an iteration. Where's your dominant focus going to be? Now, those would be the kind of questions that you would be asking. And I think what you might benefit from on Friday, Mahmood, is I'm going to ask my colleague to share what he calls as the lean canvas, which is really what he's going to talk about. And what we will do is share that copy with you as the day progresses. And I'm sure once you work on that, you will have more ideas.
That's great. I think resources like this will be very helpful. So we'll make sure that they're available to everyone.
Yes,
Great.
yes, I think that's needed. Yes.
Good. So
And
yeah.
I'll just like to interrupt. So everyone for the global part will be having live streaming going on. So you can even log in from your place and you can have the full access to whatever is going on during the business bootcamp.
Great. So we'll also spread the link for that.
Yeah.
Good. I think with that we can take another question. So first of all, from Shaju, apart from our idea, we would like to introduce some of the newer technologies like 3D printing in the field of disability rehabilitation. Could we get support in the bootcamp for this? And Shaju, feel free to speak up by unmuting your mic. Is there a first answer from your side, maybe, Vasanthi?
Yeah, because I don't know about 3D printing in particular, because I must confess that at this bootcamp we are not looking at that degree of specificity, particularly from a technology perspective. I mean, as a business school, the dominant perspective we are bringing in is largely from a fundamentals of business kind of a perspective. However, if we if there is maybe what we can do is then look at whether in the mentors, I mean, what did your mentors have to say from the last time, Shaju?
I'm not sure Shaju can actually unmute his mic and speak. Otherwise, please. Here. Okay, his microphone is not working, so feel free to type your answers or questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's right. Everything related to digital fabrication and 3D printing will definitely be supported by the workbench projects during the Maker Days as well. So I'm sure they'll have a lot of insights as well.
Yes.
We had one more question from Camera. How far developed should our business plans be in preparation for the bootcamp this Friday? So apparently you have lots of time till Friday. What do you think on this one, Vasanthi?
Okay, I think there is no such thing as a final plan. So I'm sure that till Monday or whatever, Sunday, you're going to keep revising. And therefore, I think it's a question of having as much clarity as you can on where's your funding going to come from, what's the kind of customers, clients that you're looking at, what's the nature of the product, how is it going to be able to manufacture, above all, the competence and the capability to be able to pull off scale. Yeah. Now, these are the questions that are going to iterate, and it's not going to matter where you begin. If you say that I know my customers and they're actually paying customers who are in the workforce and who would require this as a part of their work practice, then you go back and say, okay, how am I going to get it to reach it to them? And then at what price will they pay? So now you're not going to find answers for all of this by Monday. So to my mind, it's an iterative process. So treat the business plan as an iterative process, and it's the best that you can do till Sunday. And that's really what we also encourage our participants on the program to constantly keep refining it. So most of the times I find that you would probably do a version 6 or a version 10 or a version 12 of the presentation before it is anywhere nearly ready.
Do you think there's some specific research that teams could do until Friday, for example, on the customers or on the price point, or anything they could already look into so that they're well prepared for Friday?
I think there are 2 or 3 things. One is that how many people have you received feedback from for your idea? Because I find a lot of times that everybody thinks their idea is the best idea, no doubt at all. And we are also very, very possessive about our idea. But the interesting one is what's the kind of feedback and how are others responding to our idea? I'm sure at the first round in November you got some feedback already. What have you done about that feedback? There was you visited APD and looked at what was happening there. Based on that, how does your understanding of the product market, what all of that change? Do you have the right networks to be able, did you meet the right kind of people that day to whom you can come back on Friday and have a conversation with? Or have you spoken to the mentors who are available either at Workbench or at the IoT or elsewhere? Are you talking about your idea now and getting feedback? To my mind, that would be as much of a feedback as you can get. You might know all the things that you need to know on the market out there, but the question is, how does your product and your idea fit into that market? So, to my mind, it's not just out there, it's also about how you're thinking about your product and how many people are you speaking to. Does that help? Because there's always this assumption that if I do more market research, if I had only more consulting reports, if only more people told me exactly what is available out there, I'll somehow be able to translate my idea. My experience is that no amount of all of that market research is going to enable as significantly unless we are not talking to enough people saying, is there a product for this? Can you connect me to someone who you think is likely to use this product?
Yeah, I think what you're mentioning here is that testing and the iteration is really key. And I think what is helpful is to have methodologies for this. So you've been mentioning Lean as a methodology, and I think it actually really helps because it gives you more a step-to-step guide of how to approach and which people to approach. So
yes. Actually, at the Institute, both the people who will be leading the workshop, okay, because they work with very early stage startups, often what happens is these startups don't know what their market is. What they are actually looking at is how their idea is scalable. And so their approach will be very, very different from what usually gets done in a business bootcamp, where we're saying go out there and look at the market. And particularly for something like this, the area itself, the challenge, and all of that, I think there is a lot more that we have to do within ourselves and our teams with our mentors and the ecosystem, more than saying, is there a consulting report? Is there somewhere that I can go on the Google and take a look at it? Yes, all of them will be helpful, but not really the key driver in terms of looking at your idea.
Mm-hmm. Maybe at this point we can turn the question around to the teams and ask teams to share where are you at with your feedback, with your market research, or do you think to go towards a non-profit model or rather to a profit model? So I'd ask one of the teams, or actually several, to share where are you at right now and what's the current model that you have in mind. Just anyone, go ahead, unmute your mic if there's anyone that can actually speak with a microphone here in this call. Maybe Nikram? Yeah. We don't hear you yet. You just dropped out. Okay, so if there's anyone, please speak up if you can, or type your questions further in the chat if you have any. Yes, Nekram.
Yeah, so I have a question about what is the basically difference between a social enterprises and a non-profit, or I mean non-for-profit business idea. So is there any difference or it's the same? Okay. Did you hear me?
Yes, we do. Thank you. Vasanthi, did you understand the question?
Hello.
Vasanthi?
I think so. Vasanthi has got disconnected.
Okay, we'll wait for her.
Okay.
So I think in my understanding and I'm really not the expert in this, so it will be good to have Vasanthi back and correct me if I'm wrong. There's non-profit organizations that they're not set up as an enterprise. They just need to be sustainable, but can be operating. They can pay salaries, but not make a profit or be a business. And then there's social enterprises. They're set up as a business. Vasanthi, are you back?
Yes, I just heard the last part, social enterprises. I didn't hear before that.
So we had a question from Nekram about what's the difference between a social enterprise and a not-for-profit entity, if I'm correct.
Okay. We
Vasanthi, are you still with us? I think we've lost her again. So my understanding of a social enterprise is that it is a business with the primary aim of adding value to the society or one specific issue that they're tackling and not profit. So making revenues is a need in order to be sustainable, but it's not the primary aim. But maybe anyone else in the call can also correct me on this one. Vasanthi, are you still here? Okay, I think she just dropped out. In the meantime,
she
please.
dropped out.
Okay, please keep typing your questions if you have any, so that we can take them and gather them. And I'm still very interested in knowing where you are at right now and which models you are considering. So please go ahead typing your questions as we are waiting for Vasanthi to join the call.
Yeah, so I'm getting a call.
I just saw before in the chat that Cameron and Mahmoud said they are both working on prosthetics. So feel free to type your email IDs or we make the introduction later so that you can indeed exchange as you're suggesting.
Okay.
Manas, do you have any news from Vasanthi?
Yeah, so I just spoke to Vasanthi on. So what she's saying is, please drop in your questions for the on-site people, so that she can answer those questions on Friday. And for the online one, I'm just sharing her email ID, so just send it to her email ID. She's struggling with the connection.
Okay. Do you think she will come back at all to the call, or shall we rather stop it
No,
here?
no, no. She won't be able to make it back to the call.
Okay. So I think what it means for everyone, well, keep typing your questions and send them on to us. First of all, for the on-site teams to be answered on Friday then in the business bootcamp. And for the online teams, we can then take all the questions also in the upcoming webinar on Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday morning, because as I said earlier, that's really to catch up on this weekend that is coming up for the on-site teams.
Is this better?
Can you speak again, Vasanthi?
Hello?
Yes. Are you back with us?
Hello?
Do you hear us? Yes.
Yeah,
Hello?
yeah, Vasanthi, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. The connectivity is really poor. So my concern is once I start the answer, then it drops. It's kind of stuck in between. Can it wait till Friday?
We can try. We can give it another try with this connection if you like. Possibly turn off your video because that might further destabilize. Because we have quite some questions now coming.
Oh, okay, okay.
So we can try. If it doesn't work, we'll take them on Friday and over email. That's fine.
Yeah,
So we
and
have
I think
different
what
questions. Yes?
Yeah, sorry, just 1 minute. I think what would be useful is if some of these questions we can just collate and get perspectives from different people, and Manas just put them down and circulate it as an FAQ for everyone on Friday.
Okay, definitely we can do that.
That's also great. Shall we take one or two more?
Yeah?
Given that everyone is here already. So we have one from Mahmoud. Why is it so important
Yeah?
to understand who is the buyer? Is it that governments buy easier from non-profits? That's his question.
No. The reason why it's important to understand buyer is because in all of in the development sector, okay? So the first one that we are looking at is the government going to be using this as a part of any of the schemes that they are promoting? In which case it's important, and Mahmood, I don't know if you are from India or from any of the South Asian countries, but
From Portugal.
Portugal.
Living
So
in Portugal, at least.
if we look at okay. But if you're looking at particularly in the developing countries, a lot of the government buying is done through schemes. So which really means that there is a certain kind of a dependence which is often driven by the government budget rather than the quality or usefulness or the length of the product. Okay? So while you may be able to scale very quickly on a price that is affordable, which the government can subsidize, the long-term sustainability means that maybe we will do 40% of what we produce for the government, but 60% will actually be for other markets. Okay, so that's one kind of a question that we are looking. Is it a subsidy if it is the government involved? The second dimension that we are looking at is it a grant that we will get, in which case, if there is a funding agency which supports you with a grant, then the price will reduce, but how long, how far? So any which way, at some stage, your price will kind of get into somewhat a price that is affordable by the final user, whoever they may be, but is also supported by some kind of a grant. So that's the second dimension. The third dimension that we will have to look at is, what if it is actually purchased by individual users or organizations? Particularly if you are saying that it is in the realm of prosthetics, and there is a lot of opportunity in terms of how usage, and can we change the usage patterns of individuals? Yeah. So the customer is important because you want to, one, determine what's your, where is your entry point strategy, okay, which is that customer to whom you're going to first. The second reason why it is important is also to be able to understand how your portfolio of customers will look like in the short run and the long run. And the third reason that it is important is because in many of the products that are in the sector, there are long lead times before purchase happens. So which means that constantly, unless you're targeting different kinds of customers, it's pretty difficult to close the deal because there are many stakeholders involved in the decision making process. Yeah, so that's the reason that it's important to know who your customer is. Does that help?
Hello?
Yes, we hear you. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Okay, so hello, thank you very much for your answers. Basically, I could figure out, I could make my microphone working right now. So basically what we are looking is a single or two basically products. It's a kit, and that would be quite standardized. So going to individuals, I don't think is an option for us, because that would bring in the whole cost of marketing and those distribution channels. So we will be dependent to NGOs like Red Cross, for instance, and governments. That's why I'm pretty sure that those will be the customers. Now, considering that these are our customers, and then that we will not have a lot of different range of products and basically clients. In that case, again, my question goes back to what would you think works best for us, a non-profit or for-profit for long term? And the price of the unit would be about $100 each, so it's not a very expensive device, basically.
Vasanthi, did you understand the question?
I guess the connection probably is still there.
I think so. Probably will continue with on and off. We had a few more questions.
Yes, today you can't reach an individual customer.
Vasanthi, are you back here? Do you hear us, Vasanthi?
Yes, just now.
Okay, wonderful. I'm sorry it's been breaking again. Did you understand the question? And could you maybe answer to it if you have understood it?
I understand the question is
I'm afraid the connection is too weak. So the voice is breaking. So probably we have to do as suggested before and collecting all your questions through email so that we can treat them first of all on Friday in the business bootcamp, but then also on Tuesday and Wednesday in our follow-up webinars. So please send all your questions to info@enablemakeathon so that we can collect them. I'm going to suggest a subject header so that we can more easily collect them. And also check the chat before you leave this call. So there's, for example, Cameron saying that if anyone wants to discuss open hardware licenses, please feel free to contact him because he can share his experience on that. So subject header, I would suggest Basics Bootcamp questions. So please send all your questions to us. And we're sorry that it didn't work out very well with the connection this time. We hope that you still got an insight and learned from Vasanthi's answers. And we're looking forward to continuing this conversation over this weekend and also in our coming webinars. Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And we're looking forward to this coming weekend and our webinars next week. So please send us your questions. And we're looking forward to being back in touch with you soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot,
Goodbye.
everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.